Well, good morning, everyone. It is good to be back. Week 9 is in the books, NFL fantasy matchup. As usual, there's Jed, Jimmy over in Arizona, as well as Chicago. Welcome.
Morning.
Good morning.
Well, the one thing, Jed, I'll start off with you as well, too. Your thoughts on the Bears game, which turned out to be a very, very exciting game in the coming out of, what you call it, Justin Fields.
Well, we keep saying that every week, but yeah, that was an exciting game. I mean, really, you could argue if not for some poor officiating, they probably would have won. But still, it was good to see the fight. In the Bears. The one thing I'll say this: I was down by 32 points going into the game. I had Mooney and the Pittsburgh tight end. Freemuth or whatever, and I got 4 touchdowns out of them. I feel bad for the guy I was playing, so I ended up winning. But yeah, it was nice to see the Bears, the offense come alive again. Though I think the commentators made a point that Justin Fields did not roll out for a pass until the second quarter, until midway through the second quarter, and I think they just got to keep using his legs, using his movement, and then he'll really start to produce. But it was a good game.
Hey, Freiermuth is doing pretty well. 5 catches, 43 yards, 2 touchdowns. He may not get the yardage, but boy, is he getting the touchdowns.
Well, the key is if he overtakes the number 1 guy, they're thinking that he'll overtake him. So if he does,
Eric Ebron, right?
Yeah, Ebron. So if he overtakes Ebron, then there should be a lot of passes there.
So I agree with you about the penalties because that was so for every time you turn around, there was a penalty. I will say the Bears, if you watch that last drive they had, they should have taken more time off the clock. Because think about it, all they needed to do, Pittsburgh, was to score a field goal and they would have won the game. But that's where that's where experience comes in because they threw that touchdown to Mooney so fast.
Yeah. Hey, but at least Allen Robinson did pretty well. Look, Allen Robinson had 4 catches, 68 yards, more production that he's had in a couple of weeks. Mooney continues to solidify himself as your number 1 wide receiver going forward. But look, it's totally right. The officiating, especially with that taunting call on the linebacker,
that was horrible.
Just a terrible call.
That was horrible. And if you look at it closely, it looks like the ref purposely kind of bumped the Bears player when he walked by him. It was insane. It was like he tried to hip check him. It was crazy.
The other thing too is the Bears defense actually did pretty decent. They stopped him in a couple critical plays, and Khalil Mack wasn't actually even playing. Roquan Smith was all over the place. I will say that they do need to get a couple better cornerbacks and safeties because Jalen Johnson kept getting called for all these penalties and letting the receiver get past him.
Yeah. Wow. No, other than that, it was, even though they lost, it was good for Justin Fields. And look, Najee Harris, hey, Jed, he won my league yesterday. I was down maybe about 8 points, and Najee Harris was my only player playing, and he won my my game for me. So it was a good week.
So let me tell you my mistake. So the person I was playing was Najee Harris, and we were tied up. He had Najee Harris. And I decided to play McNichols and Khalil Herbert, who actually would have been doing pretty good. I accidentally left James Conner on my bench. And if all I did was play James Conner, I'd be fine.
Well, I picked Joe Burrow over Justin Herbert. That was a total mistake. Yeah. So I lost 1 league because of that.
Yeah. But the only thing is, with yours, Jed, Burrow would be good. He was hot for a while. Justin Field was in and out. And I would have done it. It would, Burrow's was been doing pretty well recently.
Well, this week the Cleveland defense, if you've noticed, they took out Chase, similar to how everyone's now taking out Tyreek Hill. They took out Jamar Chase, and they said, "Well, everybody else, you try to beat us."
Yeah, and this week it was interesting in the NFL, right? We had some crazy upsets. No one would have thought the Jags could have beat the Bills. I mean, that was an insane upset. And then even the Titans over the Rams, I don't think a lot of people expected that. So there were some interesting underdog wins.
Well, you know how much I have Josh Allen as my starting quarterback in one of the leagues? He had 8 points for me. He's usually getting 30 points for me. So automatically that was done.
Yeah.
Well, they were saying Josh Johnson over the Jets have more points than Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen combined. I mean, that's how bad it was.
But see, that's why the NFL is so fun. That's why, to me, the NBA has to get to the NFL's parity, because literally any team can win any week. I mean, that's exciting for the fan bases.
I mean, well, I know we'll talk about this later, but seriously, aren't you guys worried about the Kansas City Chiefs offense? They have not been doing well the last few weeks.
I don't know if you guys saw the interview with Patrick Mahomes, but they specifically asked him about, there was this one pass where Travis Kelce was in the middle, was wide open, and he threw to a streaking Tyreek Hill who was going into double coverage. And he basically said, yeah, I saw Kelce, but sometimes we have to go for the deep ball, which is the wrong answer. I mean, It just shows that he's forcing the deep ball, so he's not making good decisions. So yeah, I am worried. I think it all lays on Patrick Mahomes' shoulders.
It felt like after the Super Bowl, Tampa Bay did a very, very, very good job of stopping him. It looked like a lot of defense took that blueprint, have been applying the same thing, and Mahomes has struggled as a whole since the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but I mean, remember going back to when he first got drafted, the criticism against him was that he was a gunslinger and he was always willing to go downfield and miss the easy passes like a Travis Kelce, right? And so when you look at what's going on now, my guess is he realizes if I can get Hill going, everything will go back to normal. And so he's pressing hard on trying to get Hill the ball. But as a result, look at the Miko Harbins of the world, the Darrell Williams of the world, the Travis Kelce's. He's not even looking at them anymore.
Yeah, I mean, this is why the best players, the best teams, they adjust. And to me, this is also a maturity thing, right? There's a little bit of ego, right? For Mahomes, he's got to basically say, okay, I can't force that. I'm willing to do something different. But when you've been the best, you pretty much want to say nobody can stop me. And so it's a little bit of ego.
Now, if he is the best, right? Defenses have adjusted to him. Can he readjust and beat the defenses that now are playing him a certain way?
Well, I think the hard part about readjusting right now, I think he can. The problem is right now, they're like right in that position where they might not make the playoffs. And so my guess is that instead of really trying to figure out, okay, how do I adjust? He's just trying to figure out how do I win these games? And that's the entire focus of it right now.
Yeah. Jim, your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers and just all the controversy surrounding him? And look, Jordan Love did not do anything good. He was terrible this past week too.
No, I mean, so A.J. Dillon did better than Aaron, what's his name?
Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones, right? Aaron Jones was not involved in the running attack at all. Even Devontae Adams had 14 passes coming to him, resulting in 40 yards, no touchdowns. So that was a pretty useless fantasy day as well, too. So my guess is Aaron Rodgers is looking at this and smiling because he knows at the end of the day, the Green Bay Packers need him. And they don't want Jordan out there on the field.
Well, I don't know if he's smiling because all reports are that he is supposedly shocked at all of the negative reaction people are giving to his interview, where he basically defended, him lying about his status, his vaccination status. And to me, this is, I mean, I've never liked Aaron Rodgers. Now I love that I have even more reason to not like the guy. It's like total entitlement. The idea that like you can lie, that you're such a superstar, you can lie and get away with it, and no one should be upset with you. I mean, talk about a crybaby. This guy, I'm happy that this is happening to him.
Well, in some sense, I actually feel like there's a smugness to Aaron Rodgers. How dare you? It does remind me of the attitude that Kyrie Irving has in the NBA. How dare you question me? I'm a superstar. And so, frankly, a lot of times Aaron Rodgers lied and he did not participate in NFL protocols because he kind of just deceived everyone.
Well, but this is where I think Kyrie Irving, he at least was up front. He's like, I don't want to do this. I'm not doing this. Rodgers basically was like, I'm going to lie and not do this and have everyone think that I'm going along with the ride. I mean, it's like the worst of both worlds. I actually read someone said that he might consider retiring because basically he's not tradable now. And if he doesn't want to stay with Green Bay, he might actually retire.
So there was this good article that was written about how if all he did was just come out and say, no, I do not believe in the vaccine, there would be a lot of people, especially where he's from, that would really rally around him, right? And so he would be able to create some of these conversations. People, I mean, honestly, some people might not like him, but they would at least respect him. Now, instead, he's coming up with all these excuses saying, no, I didn't mean that when I said this word. And
he's allergic to the vaccine.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, agreed.
The only thing I'll mention as far as fantasy players, though, I had both AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones in one league, and I played both. I'm actually considering playing Dillon over Jones now because they split carries, but the big part is Dillon got all the passes out of the backfield. So really, and if you watch the game, Dillon does look better. He's got a little bit more explosion coming out of the backfield. So I think Dillon actually might be the better play, which is crazy.
Do you think that's because Jordan Love? Because that's what Jordan Love is quarterback, right? I feel like with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, they tend to go for Aaron Jones because Aaron Jones is a better complementary runner to Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, that's a good point. The thing with Rodgers coming back this week is he's still not allowed to be with the team until Saturday, essentially. He's out through Friday. So basically means he's going to miss all the practices. Now, it is Aaron Rodgers, so it's probably okay. But that's a good point. It could be that with Rodgers back in, they go back to Jones.
I wouldn't be surprised if they end up losing Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers. You're trading Aaron Jones. You're trading him for a low first-round draft pick. From that point on, playing AJ Dillon, and there you are. I mean, it will save you a whole lot of money. It's the same thing with Dalvin Cook. I love Dalvin Cook. I know Jen loves Dalvin Cook. Hey, look, you have Madison sitting there, and he's aging, all right? You could trade Dalvin Cook for a first and fourth round draft pick and play Alexander Madison.
Yeah, not a bad move.
Yeah. All right. Hey, a couple of games I want to talk about. And then from that point on, I want to look at waiver wires as well, too. So we have talk about a split. Look, Denver Broncos surprisingly beats the Dallas Cowboys 30-16. Everyone thinks it's Dak Prescott's injury. Dak came out and says, no, it was not his injury as well, too. But look at your rushing. Javonte Williams, 17 carries, 111 yards. Melvin Gordon's 21 carries, 80 yards. Patrick was pretty good at 4 catches, 85 yards. And Jerry Jeudy had 6 catches, 69 yards. What do you think of the rushing attack going forward for all those, Jim?
I think we keep talking about it every week. I'm just waiting for Javonte Williams to really emerge as that featured back. And I still hope that they will. Knowing how Vic Fangio is, I think he's going to keep on trying to push this 2 running back system unless something happens to a Gordon. But so I guess here's my thing is I think Williams did well. And he did well 2 weeks ago, but you never know what's going to happen. Next week, it could be Melvin Gordon will get all the goal line carries. But I still think Williams is the better quarterback than Gordon.
Yeah, and I'll just say I think this was more a function of the Dallas defense getting really exposed, that they couldn't handle the rushing game. If you actually watch, this game was not as close as the score indicates. The Cowboys didn't score for the first 3 quarters, and it's basically because the offense couldn't get the ball. So I think it's more of an indictment of Dallas's defense than anything. I expect Dallas to bounce back, though, this week.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, I'm telling you, Chad, talk about Dallas. The reason I lost most of my games this week, except my Walter White league, because Dak Prescott was the majority of the quarterback and Kyler Murray, and they were terrible. Terrible.
Well, Kyler Murray was out, so if you started him, you were definitely in trouble.
I mean, and they did ask Dak Prescott, did you do so bad? Partly because you were still feeling the effects of the injury, and he says, no, I was completely fine. So I like you said, I think he'll be fine next week. He'll bounce back. But you know who's a stud on Dallas? Micah Parsons. If anybody plays in IDP leagues and looking for a defensive player, Micah Parsons is a really good defensive player.
Yeah. Jed, speaking of Kyler Murray, he was deactivated, or he was out early on Sunday morning. I had to scramble for a quarterback. I was trying to figure out who in the world was on the waiver wire at that point in time.
Yeah, I got trouble.
I got lucky because I was playing my brother in one of them, and I just happened that Ryan Tannehill was the quarterback that was there. And so I was like, because otherwise, if Ryan Tannehill wasn't there, I don't know who else was out there that was available, like the Houston quarterback. There was not many good ones, that was roaming around.
Yeah, I'm in trouble this week because I have Joe Burrow, who's on bye, and then Russell Wilson is the guy I'm hoping can play, but who knows if he will. See.
Yeah.
Hey, I got stuck with Jimmy Garoppolo. That's who I ended up picking up. I said, oh, Jimmy Garoppolo. Who else is sitting there? There's just no one good. Yeah.
Actually, the quarterback that was out on the waiver wire that I should have considered, who actually did pretty good, was Baker Mayfield. So I would have chosen a Baker Mayfield over a Jimmy G. He did decent. He got 18, 19 fantasy points.
Yeah, the concern, speaking of that, Jed, I'd love to pick your brain on this. Cleveland Browns wins stunningly against the Cincinnati Bengals, 41-16. Look, Kareem Hunt splits time with Nick Chubb, but now we're seeing Nick Chubb play without Kareem Hunt sitting there. 14 rushes, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns. So that's number one. But I love your thoughts on, in light of waiver, do we drop the Ernest Johnson, who had 8 rushes, 16 yards, and do we highlight Donovan Peoples-Jones as your number one receiver?
Well, Donovan Peoples-Jones only had, he had 86 yards and a touchdown, but he only had 2 receptions. And the Browns clearly are a rushing team. You could make the argument that Chubb really maybe is the number one running back. This guy is amazing when he gets his clear opportunities. And so, yeah, to Ernest Johnson, I wouldn't drop him. You may consider benching him. But I still wouldn't drop him. That rushing attack is so strong in Cleveland. There's enough to go around for 2 backs. So I would still hold on to him.
So the reports out here is that Kareem Hunt is able to come off the IR this coming week, but most likely will not end up playing this game. So I think at least for Dearness Johnson, I would just keep him one more week until we know that a Kareem Hunt is going to play. The other thing that was interesting, who was it? ESPN, I think, was coming out and saying that Donald Peoples-Jones was going to be like the sleeper of the week. And partly, I think the word out of Cleveland has been that the reason why OBJ and Baker Mayfield didn't work is because Mayfield would tell him to run certain routes, and OBJ would just go the other way. And so I think at least now you've got 2 receivers in Landry and Peoples-Jones who's going to run the routes Mayfield wants. So my guess is I still think Peoples-Jones will be a good pickup. And I think actually Baker Mayfield will do better as the season goes on. Because if you looked at what happened last year, he actually started doing really well. And they even made the first playoffs and won the first game in the playoffs.
Oh, wait. All right. Let me ask you guys a question. Beckham should clear waivers by today. No one will pick him up. If you guys had your prediction, each one of you, where would you predict Odell Beckham going to?
Well, you think he'll clear waivers today?
Oh, yeah, because whoever picks him on waivers is now stuck with his salary versus if there's waivers, then they don't have to pay him his remaining $8 million or whatever he is owed.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I was hearing that obviously Vegas makes sense given the loss of Ruggs. And then Seattle was another destination I was hearing. I don't know if you guys have heard others, but Vegas makes a lot of sense to me. I actually picked up OBJ and stashed him in one league because I do think he still has the talent, and it's essentially just his attention. Like, to your point, he has to be engaged and, running the right routes and wanting to do well. And he clearly was not anymore in Cleveland, but I think he still has the talent.
Yeah. I think we said this the other day. So New England is actually at a point where they're actually doing pretty good, right? I think the best situation for him would not be a Vegas, because Vegas has all those guys who's getting dumped right now because they're getting in trouble. And he would be too much of a diva. I don't think Derek Carr nor the coach can be able to handle him. You need somebody like a Belichick to be able to put him in his place and put him in place and have a coach that he respects. So I do think that out of all of the places, if he can land in New England, I think he'll do really well.
My argument, my prediction, there's the Rams, there's the 49ers, but ultimately I believe that he's going to end up in the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to need a second wide receiver. They're desperate for a Super Bowl. They want to come back. And I would not be surprised if this Chiefs pick him up. Yeah. Hey, also, Jed, as we finish up, Cincinnati Bengals. Look, I know you love Joe Burrow. I mean, man, he had 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. And also Jamar Chase, who has been on hot streak, did not do so well. But, hey, look, we'll still stick with they're both on buys, but man, you should continue to stick with those guys all the time.
Yeah, I mean, to me, again, this was a function of Cleveland's defense doing really well. As Jimmy said, they focused on taking out Jamar Chase, and that really screwed up the game plan all around. But I mean, Cleveland's defense is really strong. Like they can get pressure with just four rushing the quarterback, and so you saw that all game. And so I expect Burrow and them to bounce back after the bye week.
Jim, one of the more exciting games of the day was the Baltimore Ravens against the Minnesota Vikings, 34-31 in overtime. Minnesota, you expect the same thing. Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen only had 2 catches, 6 yards, 1 touchdown, which saved his day. I actually want to get your thoughts on the Baltimore Ravens. It looks like Devontae Freeman, Le'Veon Bell split carries. Lamar Jackson had your most carries at 21 at 120. But man, Devontae Freeman is 13 carries, 79 yards. Is he on your waiver wire this week?
Yeah. I mean, I would really at least take a look at him. I would consider him. I think here's my thing. I think with Derrick Henry gone, I would make the argument that Lamar Jackson is the MVP of your league. And so I think as long as he keeps doing what he's doing, the Marquise Browns of the world, the Devontae Freemans of the world, the Batemans, they're all going to do pretty well. And so they're worth a pickup. I would not have said this at the beginning of the season, but Lamar Jackson is actually playing really, really well. I mean, if you watch that game, Minnesota came ahead, right? They had a touchdown to Justin Jefferson. They had the momentum, but towards the second, when you got back to the second half, Lamar Jackson just went off.
Yeah. Hey, Jed, game that I wanted to ask you about. Las Vegas Raiders loses to the New York Giants 16-23. All right, I wanted to go with you on a couple players. Devontae Booker, 21 carries, 99 yards, did pretty well. But also, Darren Waller comes back. Kenyon Drake, 6 catches, 70 yards, and 4 carries at 30 yards. Look, are you starting him? Is he a weekly starter for you, Kenyon Drake?
You want me to say this is your guy, Kenyon Drake? You want me to say, I think he's someone you can consider in the flex position. I do think with the Raiders, I think you can consider Drake, given that he's, they're starting to pass the ball out and he's catching out of the backfield. So yeah, I think that's someone you can consider. I'd rather have a Booker on the Giants. I think the Giants have really started to turn things around. If you see the last like 3-4 games, they've been very competitive. I think this team has kind of figured things out, and so you can pick up some points there for sure. I will say too, for Waller coming back, it was good to see him back. He had 7 receptions, 92 yards. I expect that to continue, so he's definitely a plug and play starter.
Yeah. Jim, let's go over the Falcons. 27 against New Orleans Saints, 25. The surprise of the game, right? Trevor Siemian was the one who really did well as a quarterback. As the
Wildcats, Northwestern Wildcats.
All of us thought it was Taysom Hill. 25 out of 41, 249 yards, 2 touchdowns. Pretty decently. And so I don't know. I mean, what'd you think of that, as well as the Atlanta Falcons without Calvin Ridley? Well, Cordero Patterson did what he usually does, but Zacchaeus came in with 58 yards and 2 touchdowns. What are your thoughts as you head into the waiver wire?
So I messed up on the waiver wire for these. I was banking that Taysom Hill was going to end up being quarterback, and when Simeon was named quarterback, I decided to dump him. The other receiver, I also thought Taja Sharp over in Atlanta was going to be the one that would take over for Calvin Ridley, but it turned out to be Zacchaeus, right? So I guess a couple observations from this. Cordell Patterson is the real deal. I mean, that guy could make the argument he could be the MVP as well too, because I mean, think about it. He went from Minnesota to the Bears to New England. Minnesota to New England to the Bears, and who knew how good that this guy was? I mean, him and Kyle Pitts led Atlanta in in receiving, and also in passes thrown their way and touches. Matt Ryan had 28 fantasy points this week. So they're rolling. Mike Davis, I saw that you dropped him in one of the leagues, Jed. I thought he would at least pick up some of the touches with Ridley gone, but I think he's somebody you can just drop right now.
Yeah, I mean, Cordell Patterson, I'll just say I love having him because, especially at this point in the season with all the bye weeks, his ability to play both wide receiver and running back is really valuable. It lets you go after the best player on the waiver wire and not worry about position. So it's really helpful.
Sorry, go ahead.
Jed, let me ask you a quick question. Since you have Cordell Patterson, when you do keepers, are you keeping
I'm keeping him. I'm keeping him. Yep, I'm definitely keeping him.
Okay, could you guys make the argument, right? Who was a better pickup this year, Cooper Kupp or Cordell Patterson?
Well, it's got to be Cooper Kupp, man. Cooper Kupp's got #1 wide receiver. That's insane to get
He
that
has
out.
saved me every single week, that Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, that's been an amazing pickup. I mean,
Mhm.
it just this is really interesting. 2 seasons in a row now where one person, Matt Stafford, Tom Brady, completely changed the fortunes of a single team. So
Yeah.
it'd just be interesting to see if next season Aaron Rodgers goes to another team, it could be the same thing.
I mean, if Aaron Rodgers tomorrow goes to San Francisco, all of a sudden I can see somebody like a Brandon Ayuk thrive tremendously.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Got it. Hey, Jim, the reason why New England Patriots 24, Carolina Panthers 6. Christian McCaffrey came back from injury. I know in my keeper league, I traded him to you for Aaron Rodgers. And do you remember who the other player was I traded for you for in the
I
keeper league?
don't. No, but I'm glad I made the trade now.
It was a running back, I think.
Yeah, it was a running back. And for me, as I had so many people in my keeper leagues, and I really got tired of Christian McCaffrey getting injured all the time. So I said, you know what? I would rather keep a Cam Akers. I would keep all those guys and let's just dump Christian McCaffrey because I really need a stud quarterback. And it's let's see how it works out.
Yeah, I think the observation. I don't know, but I wasn't paying as much to Carolina, but I was paying attention to the 3 running backs in New England. Right, so Damian Harris is obviously number 1. Brandon Bowden actually had 80 yards, and he actually had some decent fantasy points. But I don't know if you watched Ramondre Stevenson had a couple really good runs. And I could make the argument that he was the best running back out of the 3. The only thing is he got injured towards the 3rd or 4th quarter, and he left the game for a little bit. But I actually would think that, I mean, people kept saying Ramondre Stevenson was really good in the preseason. I hope they play him more because from a fantasy perspective, he's actually pretty good.
I think he's the best talent of the 3, but in New England, you cannot miss assignments. You have to do your pass protection, and Damian Harris is the guy. He does not mess up. And so Harris, I dropped Harris. I had him beginning of the season. I dropped him. The last, I think, 5 weeks, he has had either over 100 yards or a touchdown. The guy has been a stud. So if you kept him, you're in good shape.
But you're right. Ramondre Stevenson, from a pure talent, I think is better than Damian Harris. But he does make a lot of rookie mistakes. So I could see that's why Belichick doesn't play him that much.
Hey, but both of those guys are in concussion protocol, right?
So wait, Damian Harris is as well too?
Both of them are in concussion protocol.
Okay. Yeah.
So we'll see how well they do.
Oh, that's okay. That's why if you look at the waivers, Brandon Bowden is like number 1 for a lot of people. I guess that's why.
Yep.
Hey, look, the only thing that has saved my wife's team is when she made that for Jamar Chase. It looks like Damian Harris and now Russell Wilson in exchange for Chris Carson and Patrick Mahomes. It has worked out decently well for her.
And we thought she was getting gypped.
Well, Carson's coming back this week. But yeah, the big thing is Mahomes has not been Mahomes.
So. Right? Carson, his neck injury. For a running back with a neck injury, all right? If there's one hit, you're afraid that he's going to be out again because that's a dangerous situation for a running back to be in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hey, actually, here's the one that I want to talk to you, Jed. Arizona Cardinals, 31-17, right? I can't believe that they win with Colt McCoy as your starting quarterback. James Conner did pretty well. Christian Kirk did well. Man, James Conner, I'm looking at it, 5 catches, 77 yards. But the one that I actually want to talk to you about is George Kittle, 101 yards, and Brandon Ayuk, 89 yards. Ayuk has been on everyone's waiver. Is he your top waiver wire this week?
I don't know that I would call him my top. Actually, I think Connor is the more important one because what's his name is out now.
Chase Edmonds.
Yep. Yeah, Chase Edmonds is out. So if you've got Connor, that is a huge pick. I mean, Connor's been great all season long anyway for the goal line carries. So no, I mean, it was nice to see Ayuk, get a little bit of play, but he's just been so inconsistent. if you want to do a pickup for him and, see what happens, see if he can continue that, I think that's fine. But, I'm just not Jimmy G and the 49ers. It's just amazing they lost this game. This was the game they should have won. As an OU Sooner fan, I cannot like Colt McCoy. He's a Texas Longhorn, but pretty impressive outing for him. So I'm impressed that, they actually pulled off the win. But yeah, no, I'm not huge on Ayuk, really, to be honest.
Hey, and after a couple weeks and a couple of my leagues, George Kittles is back. I have a tight end again.
Yeah, it was nice to see Kittle pick up. I mean, I was wondering coming off the injury if he'd slowed up, but he just picked up right where he left off. So definitely plug and play.
Yep. Jim, were you surprised by the Rams' defeat this past week?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, Stafford, I don't know. But I guess it goes back to the conversation earlier that we had, right? Every week, you never know who's going to end up winning. I think we walk away from each of these weeks. Like a couple of weeks ago, we said that Cincinnati was going to be the number one team in AFC. We were saying, Tennessee Titans, and then at the beginning of the season, but they lost the first game I forgot who they lost to. So every week things change, and that's the beauty of the NFL. But then at the same time, from a fantasy perspective, these days you never know, because right now, like you said, Ayuk is really kind of rising in a lot of ranks when people were dropping him before. And so I think even now, as we're looking at these last few weeks of fantasy, it's interesting to see who will end up being the ones that you want to play, who you don't want to play.
Yeah, that Rams-Titans game, I think the big thing was the Titans line got to Stafford a lot. Like he was under a lot of pressure, and so they could not wait, because Stafford, a lot of those plays are timing plays where it takes a long time for the deep pass. He could not get into that. I will say though, watch the Rams didn't get the guy they traded for out of Denver. He didn't get to play this week, so he's playing next week.
Von Miller.
Yes, Von Miller is playing till next week. So I expect this week 10, you should see a big rise in the Rams defense. That should help everything.
Jed, whenever I watch the Rams games, you always see Malcolm Floyd everywhere, all over the field, and you're like, is it Malcolm Floyd?
Leonard Floyd, yeah, out of U of I.
The Bears had they never knew how to use them, and they let them go. But think about it. You got Floyd, you got Aaron Donald, you got Von Miller. Those guys are going to be like so hard to get past.
Yep.
Remember
the Bears Ramsey.
Cordero Patterson, the Bears had Leonard Floyd, the Bears had Kyle Fuller, the Bears had everyone. They decided to keep Akeem Hicks, Eddie Jackson, all those guys.
Oh, I like Akeem Hicks, man. I think Akeem Hicks is, especially when he's healthy, he's a beast.
That's the problem. Akeem Hicks is always injured. That's his problem. He's always injured. Hey, speaking of that, Denver, Tennessee, we were talking about that was a high thing, or a thing that we were talking about is with Derrick Henry out. Look at the split in rushing. Deontay Foreman, 5 rushes. Jeremy McNichols, 7 rushes. Adrian Peterson, 10 rushes. That's what we were talking about. Do not prioritize these guys on the waiver wire. You just messed up your waiver wire rankings to pick up some of these guys, and I've begun to see some people dropping Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, I was glad to see he got his 250th TD. That was nice. So I actually expect they would lean more on Peterson now, just because, again, being a veteran, he's going to understand protections and how to not mess up. And so he's not going to get you huge points. But basically, if you pick up a Peterson, what you're hoping for is just a goal line plunge, and you get some TD points. But he may give that to them.
Yeah. Jim, as we prepare, as we look at, who are some of your waiver wire picks that you're looking at this week?
Yeah, there's actually a couple pretty good people out there. I mean, not a lot, but there's some decent people out there right now. If you look at running backs, Kenyon Drake from the Raiders, he had 30 rushing yards, 6 receptions, 70 receiving yards, 16 fantasy points. I know that we were talking about it. He's out there in quite a few leagues, and I actually think that he's somebody that people should be looking at. Actually, I also like, I don't know what you guys think about him, Jordan Howard. I actually think Jordan Howard's a better pickup than Bart Scott.
He was your leading rusher this past week.
71 yards, 1 touchdown, and he had 13 fantasy points. And so he's actually decent for somebody that you're just coming back and not playing for a while.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Are you prioritizing anyone? Is there someone that you said, man, I have to have, or saying, you know what, I'm gonna let another week pass and keep moving up the waiver wire rankings?
You know what? The person I was watching was Ezekiel Elliott got hurt, and so I thought he might be out. So then Tony Pollard was going to be. I was going to be willing to pay quite a bit for Tony Pollard, but it looks like Zeke Elliott is okay. The most recent injury news, and so now I'm not as focused. So yeah, I'm actually thinking about just kind of sitting this one out.
Yeah.
But Pollard, Pollard. He may even, just like AJ Dillon, you can make the argument that Pollard is worth it even if Zeke is healthy. He's been that good.
Yeah.
Now, if Odell Beckham was on the waiver wire for both of you guys, would he be your number one pick that you put as a priority?
Well, part of it depends on where he's going to go, right? We'll find out at 4:00 Eastern today. Once he clear my guess is he's going to try to sign sooner rather than later. And so I think if he goes to a pretty decent team, I would pay a decent amount of money for him, but a lot of it will depend on where he ends up going. Yeah. The other person I was thinking about, and I know he got a lot of points during garbage time, and he also plays for the Jets, but Elijah Moore actually did pretty good this week. 7 receptions, 84 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he was the highest scoring wide receiver for fantasy this week. I don't know what you guys think about him.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Jed.
No, I was just going to say Corey Davis is back too. So I think it's fine with the Jets. I'm now picking up points off of the Jets, so I think it's not a bad move.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Jed, I'm telling you, speaking of Jets in the Indianapolis game, I never watched that game so closely, rooting for the Indianapolis Colts. All right.
Yeah. Okay, and so my last one, and we talked about him this week. I think, Jed, you were talking about picking up Bryan Edwards. I actually think that Hunter Renfrow is the better pickup from the Raiders. 7 receptions, 49 yards, 1 touchdown, almost 18 fantasy points. I think Renfro's, to me, he's almost like the Wes Welker, like that type of player. He's safe, he's reliable. I think Derek Carr always goes for him. Bryan Edwards will get you potentially like a long pass. But Renfrow is going to be your consistent player that you're going to get double-digit fantasy points every week.
Oh, yeah. I totally whiffed on Bryan Edwards. I played him in 2 different leagues, got 0 basically out of him. I also whiffed on my bet with Tommy and the Jets and Indianapolis Colts. Although I will say, if not for the injury to, White at quarterback, I think I would have won that because they were playing them tough. They were close, but then
White was doing pretty good in that.
Exactly. That's until he got hurt. I was like, oh man, now it's all over. So I had to buy Tommy lunch.
Yeah. Hey, in a few minutes that we have left, I want to at least pick. We usually do a little crypto talk, and we usually do an NBA talk as well too. Here's one crypto that you guys need to. I know a lot of times, Jay, you may not pay attention to some of the fly-by-night ones, but here is one that I've been looking at. IOTEX, IOTEX. All right. It currently is at 23 cents. It was as high as 37 cents maybe a couple of weeks ago. Last week, it dropped all the way to 16 cents. And so yesterday night was 16 cents, and now it suddenly went up to 23 cents. So that's something that I will watch. And so if you guys are interested in random, cheap crypto, that might be a good one for you to look at.
So here's the thing. I'm looking at this right now, huh? Right yesterday, I don't know if you guys saw, Bitcoin went all the way up to $67,000.
Yes.
This morning, it's dropping, right? It's dropped by about 370 points. Here's my thing. I think if I had some money right now, I'm going to put it into Bitcoin because if it can get past the $70,000 mark, it's on its way to $100,000 by the end of the year. So even though it's high, I would say that's where you want to put money into. And then the other one is Ethereum's going to. Ethereum is about to break 5,000. It's at 800 right now, and I think both of those are actually good things to put money into right now.
No, I totally agree. That's where I'm putting on and actually of the two, I'm starting to like Ethereum better. I think Bitcoin is a little bit more like gold, where it's just more stable. It's like a storage place. Whereas Ethereum, you actually can build stuff off of Ethereum, so that's why I like it better.
Yeah, every new crypto that's being created is off of the Ethereum network, right? So if you noticed, all of these guys, that's why Ethereum is doing well, because all these other little crypto things are doing well. So it's building off the Ethereum network.
Well, the other thing to watch is both Ethereum and Bitcoin. They have these network upgrades. So Ethereum just went through one, and so you'll hear about these. It happens about once a year, once or twice a year, and every time they do that, it improves the performance so that everything gets faster. The transactions get faster, and everything gets calculated faster. Every time that happens, there's usually a blip because essentially the companies can make more money now because things are processing faster, and so you want to buy before those transitions, and then you can pick up on the blip after.
Now here's the issue that we're running into. So I was looking at it. Robinhood for some reason has gone down right now. And a couple of days ago, I don't know if you saw that it got reported that they were hacked and lost all of people's information. And I wonder if something's going on with Robinhood right now too.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Robinhood, as you guys know. I haven't been. I've got the app, but I don't really use it. The other one I've been looking at late, so I've spread out my crypto across like 4 or 5 different platforms. But the one I've been looking at lately is Binance. I don't know if you guys use Binance at all, but that's one that I've been looking at.
Yeah, SoFi is the one that I use. Hey, look, the reason why Robinhood is being hacked is that deal they made with Burger King, right? Everyone's buying crypto. If you go in and pay $5, you'll get free crypto, all right?
Yeah. But back to the NBA, I'll mention the Bulls beat the Nets. That was a nice win for the Bulls. And man, do not sleep on the Bulls. They are looking strong. The rookie, what's his name? I don't pronounce his last name, but he's had a great last 2 games.
What's his name from Illinois, right?
Yeah, Udoname or something. Yeah, he's been pretty good.
Who was it? What was I watching? Oh, I was listening to Dan Patrick's show, and they were making fun of DeMar DeRozan because they said everyone these days is leading scorers. If you look at DeRozan's stats, he's leading. He's scoring 26, 27 a game, but he's only shooting 2 3-pointers. They said that is so not typical of what all of these other players are doing. Like, look at Steph. Steph scored like 9 3-pointers yesterday.
Yeah, he had 50. It was so close. He had 50 points. No, he had 9. He had 50 points, 9 3-pointers, and 10 assists. If he had 10 3-pointers, that would have been a sweet triple double.
Yeah.
Now the only thing is,
Klay Thompson is coming back.
Yep.
Yeah. The only problem, if you watch the Bulls, that's a little concerning. Look at the 2 losses with the Philadelphia games. They all went down. Same thing with the New Jersey game. They were down. And if it wasn't for the fourth quarter, and in one of the Philadelphia games, they were terrible in the fourth quarters. That's why they lost that Philadelphia games. They keep going down early.
No, but here's the thing is, if you notice, all of the teams that they're not doing well against have big centers. Yep. And so the other day I was watching, it was a random Houston game where, remember Daniel Theus? He was on the team last year. Daniel Theus was playing at center, and he was doing really good. And I was like, too bad the Bulls didn't just keep him, because they need a couple big bodies. If they can just keep Theus and a Thaddeus Young or someone on there, I think they'd be fine. But they need a couple big guys.
The Bulls will be in the trade market for sure. I think that they are playing so well that the management's going to realize, if, like you said, if they can get one big body in there, it'll really help. So I would not be surprised if they make a move mid-season.
All right, let me ask you a quick question. Here's the trade proposal I was reading on ESPN. So there's Thaddeus Young, who is a good logical pick in San Antonio. He is just playing minor minutes, but with Pathal injured, he's playing more. So that's one. You have Robin Lopez on the streets. Now, eventually they think Milwaukee's a sign-up because Brooke Lopez is injured. And so a lot of times Robin Lopez. But here's a third one that I want to see what you thought. If you were to trade Kobe White and Patrick Williams to Christian Wood, Houston would be interested in it. Would you do it?
Ooh, I like Cody White, though.
I do like Christian Wood.
Christian Wood's really good.
Yeah, that's true. He is. Yeah, that's probably a good move. I mean, they probably don't need the backup guard play. So, yeah, that's not a bad trade.
But the only thing is, they say if you trade Cody White, Patrick Williams, totally understand, Christian Wood replaced him. You now, your guy off the bench, because Caruso isn't a scorer, you would now eliminate your depth and your scoring ability on the bench.
Yeah, Caruso is really, you were talking about the fourth quarter. You notice that Caruso is the guy that's in there. So a lot of times it's, I think that's why they're slow to start, because he's sitting on the bench.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if there was one person I would trade off the Bulls, it would be Vujacic, because I think he's somewhat of a duplicate. he's redundant for their offense and also for their team. You can get somebody else who's better defensively and still produce the production that Vucevic provides.
Yeah. Hey, now at the same time, Indiana is looking to trade Miles Turner.
Oh, see, I like Miles Turner.
Do you guys like Miles Turner?
Oh, I like Miles Turner. Yeah. Like, here's my thing. I would trade a Vucevic for a Miles Turner and like a Justin Holiday.
Ooh.
Really? I like Justin Holiday. He's actually decent.
Oh, yeah. Hey, but your two players that you need to watch out. Jimmy picked up Andre Drummond. All right. Last night he got 25 rebounds. And with Embiid in COVID protocol, he'll play at least the next 2 weeks or a week and a half. And then other one with Colin Sexton with the torn meniscus, you got to look at Ricky Rubio. All right. He had what he had 38 points the last time he played.
Remember, Ricky Rubio was the one that led his European team to like the finals and Olympics. He's actually pretty good.
Oh, Ricky Rubio was the Luka, the Doncic of the old days.
Here's the only problem about Andre Drummond is I actually think, I mean, that guy is a beast rebounder. His field goal percentage stinks. His free throw percentage.
Yeah.
And so you have to realize if you're going to get him and he's going to give you points and rebounds, you're going to lose on those other two.
Yeah. A couple other things. Speaking of Luka Doncic, look, he's supposed to be a superstar. He's struggling with shooting percentage on my team. He's killing me on the percentage field goals as well too.
Actually, the other person who's struggling for me, Damon Lillard, is not doing well. Like the other day, he only scored 4 points, and I was like, for somebody who I picked up pretty high, he's not working out.
Yeah, and Simons. I think it's Anthony Simons. They've been touting him as the future point guard of the team. And also, the rookie of the year has been the stud, Evan Mobley, that has been on my team. He has been so good. Yeah. All right. Guys, any lasting thoughts?
Nope, I'm good.
Yep.
All right. Our office Wi-Fi is down, so we're late, and we'll talk soon. We'll talk this week. All right, guys?